What is Valorant's worst map? Many people would say it's Breeze, Fracture, or even Pearl. But no, these three maps have one fundamental problem, while the map we are talking about today has way more than that. Yeah, it's Icebox. But why? Why is the map considered mid by the community the worst Valorant map? And better yet, is it fixable? Yes, there is a fix, but I have to address Icebox's issues first. There are three main issues that occur: mid, lurking, and the sights. I guess Riot tried to fix mid, but it didn't work, as the window introduces even more problems. One thing that Riot did kinda right was opening the passage to A under tube, but it's still very small. Also, closing up orange is technically a good change, but it's not so great, as one molly can stop an entire push. So how do we fix this? And yes, I'm starting with mid. To fix it, we have to give the attackers more space to work with, because this Viper Orb is just way too strong. That means that we have to open up mid, but also the B-split entrance. First, I made some readjustments to this area for easier pushes, and by doing this it allows me to push the choke point way closer to side than it was before. And now that molly won't be able to stop you, as the entrance is just way closer to side. So this caveat was added to make sure that when you clear backside, you are not exposing yourself to the guy peeking frontside. And it obviously gives you more cover if you were to be mollied. Now, why do you think this wall is sideways? It's to make sure that the defenders have an easier time retaking the site. The case is the same for this cutout. The next thing I'm going to be doing is...
No more heaven.
Kitchen. Yes, I am fully removing the entrance from kitchen to site. I'm making this so the defenders are incentivized to retake from kitchen or mid, but also it helps the attackers by giving them less stupid angles to worry about. So this box and this spawnable wall were added to disrupt a huge side angle that allowed you to see mid from all the way back, Snowman. To make mid fully usable, I also have to make this cubby that would make undertube even bigger. But for it to work, we also have to push tube and the wall behind it by 1 meter to the left. This allows undertube to be at the respectable size, but it also doesn't expose to the guy peeking undertube when you want to clear the guy top mid. Pushing tube anything further than this will unfortunately break this rule. I also moved this wall so you can't actually see anybody crossing undertube from all the way back here. If I kept it like it is in Valorant right now, you will be able to see anybody crossing undertube. Now with mid being almost fixed, I also have to address the lurking issue. Mid was the primary way of lurking, so I have to remove window. But I also have to remove this cringy sight line, as it will disturb a lot of the mid splits. So what I will do is I will add a drop section where you have to make noise in order to go onto sight. The defenders won't be able to go on top of the drop section as well. Now that both lurking and mid have been fixed, it is time for the sights. And the biggest problem with A and B is that they feel undefendable. But also the choke points need more than 2 smokes to be smoked off. I'm going to start with B. And B's choke point is just awful. It is a 33 by 33 by 33, not even a 50-50. And so I have to push the crate next to the wall, but I also extended the jump up section. This makes the choke point a bit bigger, and it gives you the opportunity to escape without anybody seeing you. But also, it allows for one smoke to smoke this whole choke point, as you only have to hold the jump section. I'm also going to give the defenders more angles by moving this box to the center, which acts the same way as Rubo and Lotus. The only difference is that if an attacker and a defender start sprinting when the barrier drops, the attacker will be able to spot the defender right as they cross the box. So I expect a lot of pushes for the defenders to come here, because this box is no longer spammable. I also made sure to leave a smoke gap on crate to where the attackers can no longer peek the spike from all the way up here. Also, this gap is not big enough to fit a whole player, so if you swing a tad bit wider, you're going to be able to see the enemy. I'm also extending this box by 1 meter so we can keep the head glitch like it is in Valorant. And it's because we made the choke point slightly bigger and slightly closer. I now have to address the site itself, and the first thing I'm going to do is remove this plant spot, because it is the safe plant, but also the best plant spot. But now, there is no default. You can make the argument that this is default, but first, it's way too risky, as you have to cross mid, plant the spike, but then also cross back. And the other thing is, well, I don't think it needs any explanation. And the easiest fix would be to remove this entire section of planting the spike, but also the whole plant section on top side. And after that being done, we can finally add our new default. So this whole plant line was removed to make sure that when the attackers want to plant on the corner, they cannot expose the spike to mid and the defender's spawn. And for topside, I removed it because the entrance from kitchen no longer exists. The plant line is also slightly deeper, which leaves a bigger circle where the defenders are able to defuse the spike, which also gives them slightly more cover. With this, I unfortunately made two issues that need to be fixed. Number 1 is that the guy playing yellow can hold a passive angle on the guy going from mid to kitchen. The fix for that would be adding this player size box that isn't spammable. Now this guy has to swing a bit wider and he's more exposed, but the attackers are also able to cross right before switching angles. The stair here is necessary to make sure that the defender does not see the attackers going up the stairs. Problem number 2. Because I added the default, it consequently made a really powerful double angle for the defenders. So I'll push the window as far to the left as I possibly can. That way you can clear all angles one by one by one. Backside seems empty, doesn't it? Well, I'll be adding a box that matches the width of the bridge, and it's slightly lower than a normal 2-meter box. And if you didn't notice, I removed the small box on topside because I don't want defenders to be able to jump on topside and fight mid for free. Keep in mind that in Valorant these walls are 1 trapdoor thick, but for the sake of clarity I will keep them at half slabs. If that's not enough to stall, then I'll be adding a few boxes that will allow you to go on top of site with a few jumps. This is dependent on gameplay testing, which I unfortunately don't have. I'm also going to push this whole section to the right, so one smoke won't leave any significant gaps. But I'll also push this wall deeper so that the attackers are not exposed to the newly added mid cubby, and it also allows you to clear this section of backside. Lastly, I'll be adding this quote-unquote Valorant cover that might be able to help you get a pick on mid when you crouch, but honestly this is only here because of an out iteration of the map. Now that B has been fixed, it is time for A. And oh my god, this site was a pain in the ass. So one of the biggest issues with the site is that you can't really smoke the choke point with only one smoke, and the normal Viper wall is not even close to the choke, which gives the attackers a lot of free space that they should not have. The very first change to battle this is to add this wall. This is to make sure that you can't see the spike from all the way back belt. But I can't extend this wall fully to the ceiling, and it's because I don't want this guy to have a free rat spot. But I also don't want this guy to have a free angle where if he moves slightly to the left, he would be untradeable. That is not the case with my version. And if you ask what this is, it should be a normal slope to where you can stand on top of it. To help with this a bit more, I will just nest very slightly as well. Before I do anything, I'll push ramp further back, and I'll explain later why. You probably noticed that pipes is a bit different, and you would be absolutely correct. First, I'll push pipes slightly backwards, but I'll also extend the whole platform section next to the site with a rope that you will be able to go on top of. But in return, I'll push this wall back and open up this space. To fully finish this section of site, I'll have to add a giant wall on this section of 410. The wall needs to extend by this small amount so that the attackers are not able to see the guys coming on site from all the way back nest. So while editing this video, I found out that Valorant actually had concept of the map with a big wall on the same position that I put my wall, and I was blown away. I have no idea that this was the case. This now makes pipes a really powerful position for the defenders, and it allows them to fully tuck next to the pipe without anybody seeing them. And one smoke is almost fully capable of smoking the entire choke point. I'm saying almost because there is always going to be a gap as it is a one-way. Now if you want to make it fully smokable, you most likely have to extend pipes a bit. That extension will not give you cover as a defender. This doesn't fully cut it yet, as there are some issues with the new pipe. The first is that if you're playing in this corner, the guy trying to go on top of pipes will be really easy to kill. That's because I pushed pipes deeper and there is no safe jump, like how there is in Valorant. And the biggest issue is that this guy can just wait here for the smoke and he is untradeable basically because of our newly added wall. The other problem is that if you were to get smoked and you know that everyone has crossed, then it is really easy to get the jumping guys. I mean, you don't even need to know if anyone has crossed because you can just crouch here and wait for the guys to jump, as the guys under will not be able to see your head there. It's also a guessing game whether that guy is going to peek or not. So to fix this, I'll make an opening to pipes and lower both the first section of the platform and the box where you jump onto pipes. All of this makes it more consistent to push pipes for the attackers. It also makes this guy not be able to see the people tucking next to the pipe. If I don't lower this section, he will be able to see them while holding a passive angle. That's because this platform where you take the early fight is slightly higher than before to make the peak more consistent. And because this box is also lower, if you try to clear the guy on the barrel like before, you won't be able to see him. Only jumping will. I said I was going to explain why I pushed this ramp back, and it's because if I don't, then these guys will be able to see the heads of the players behind pipe, while those players think they are completely safe. You also need to keep the ramp this deep so the players on pipes don't have to worry about 3 headshot angles. That's because when you drop jail, you see some of the players on pipes. Lastly, I removed the skill jump that allowed you to go on top of the pipe as an attacker. That's because I don't want you to go in the smoke and then clear the third guy for free. And now it's time for the site. And the first thing I'm going to do is lower this entire section because of the new extended pipes. If I don't lower it, then the defenders are going to be able to completely spot the attackers without any risk involved. The other thing that is necessary is making it possible to actually smoke the site. So I'll add this wall, cut rafters accordingly, and also add this garbage in the way so that the attackers cannot hide. Now I could just keep the site as is, but I'm not a fan of some of our new spots and how they play out. And the first change I'm going to do is revert the box to the old half cover. I'm doing it to remove shit angles from the retake. And for obvious things that will become really vivid later. I'll also remove this section of rafters. But this now makes this position really powerful. And to counter that, I'll remove the ability to go on top side, remove the ropes with it, and also chop it by almost half. I'll also have to add this box so we don't break the site. First, this box is slightly wider than a normal 2-meter box. That allows you to clear your angles one by one. It's also slightly lower than a 2-meter box to remove any unnecessary headshot angles. But it's still high enough to where you can jump spot the guy that's hiding backside. And now if you swing from rafters, you will be able to see the enemy. Because I removed topside, only certain characters will be able to go on top of screens. And not to force an agent pull, I'll completely block it off and extend it by a very small amount. I'm extending it so that you won't get exposed to 2 positions at the same time. And this is mainly the reason why this box isn't here. It's also because default and this position have become really powerful and it just isn't needed. One of the last few things I'm going to be doing is first open up this wall to enable some lineup spots, as the site has been generally opened up. And the last thing for the site is to adjust the plant spots to where if you want to get the best plant, you'll have to expose yourself to the guy from rafter. As for outside, I have extended this wall to make a split somewhat possible. But this change is mainly done to take space when you're low on numbers. As for barrier changes, the first one is going to be from here to here. This is to keep the mid timing the same as it was before. And the second one is going to be from here to here. This is to make sure that you can drop early in the round without the attackers hearing you. And also this barrier has changed from here to here. And with that, the map has been fully finished and this is how it looks. And this is the original. There are some small changes like these small pieces that make sure that you can see the people on rafters when you're on top of the pipe. Also make it a bit lower so that this guy has to crouch to see their head. Or like how this is a platform that you have to jump on. Also how like this is lower so that you can't do this jump almost 100% of the time. Or like how head glitch has been pushed in so that you can't see the people from screens. Or how this wall has been pushed by 1/2 a block to the right. I forgot to tell these earlier. If for whatever reason you decide to make this version of the map in, say, Counter-Strike, then feel free to do so. Make sure to use the minimap as your reference, as Minecraft isn't always one-to-one. Map and mods are in the description, go subscribe right now.